Hello and welcome to Undercurrent. On this week's episode, we're going to be talking about noise, or more specifically, aircraft noise. Now, if you live anywhere in the hills or anywhere near the Canning River, you may have noticed that the aircraft are a little bit noisier than normal. Why? Well, it seems that the airport has made some changes to flight paths without consulting anybody. Ruth Barber investigates.
Air Services Australia is a federal government agency responsible for the management of Australian airspace. In 2008, they conducted a route review, and as a result, they placed new flight paths directly above some Perth Hills suburbs. Peter and Ian are residents of Glen Forest and have lived in the Perth Hills for most of their lives. They are both supporters of the Fair Skies website, aimed to encourage community awareness and action against these flight paths.
Here in Glen Forest, since November 2008, we've had a huge increase in the number of aircraft around this area because of the new route that goes southeast over the top of us. Well, actually, there's three routes all rolled into one there. There's a number of areas where myself personally and others have made complaints through the Shire of Mundaring. They've generally been supportive, and other shires have been a help. Through our local Member of Parliament, Federal Member of Parliament, and in this case it's Judy Moylan. She's been a great support. And through the mostly ineffective Air Services Australia complaints process.
Prior to the introduction, 96% of residents were not aware of any proposal to change flight paths, and since then, 4 out of 5 residents have registered at least one noise complaint. With the support of local MPs, a Senate inquiry was held into the matter in 2010 and found that there had been no attempt made by Air Services Australia to have an effective, open and informed public consultation process.
For somebody to go and put a flight path over us, in fact 3 flight paths over us, is, to say the least, annoying, especially when you weren't consulted about it. Air Services Australia maintained that they had a system where they told local representatives, but it was so heavily technical that people just didn't understand. You know, the glazed look would descend, and if you were a real cynic, you could probably say this was done deliberately. So hence our local representatives, if you like, didn't come back and tell us.
They really offer no solution, no chance of an outcome. And that's probably true, that not every situation can you solve this aircraft noise issue. Like if this Glen Forest was right off the end of the runway by 2 kilometres, not a lot you can do there, is there? But in some instances, oh, here comes one now. In some instances, there is a chance of improving things for people.
Despite being a government-run organisation, Air Services Australia is funded primarily by airlines. Because of this, the Senate inquiry recommended Air Service Australia provide a clear statement of its responsibilities to eliminate the potential conflict of interest between the community and the airline industry.
Air Services hasn't got a policy of where they put adverts in papers and so on to let people know what's happening. So hopefully now with this, the outcome of the Senate inquiry, some of this will change.
Mrs Moylan recently put a bill before the House of Representatives to amend the Air Services Act and also the EPBC Act, the Environmental Act, to make aircraft noise more of a responsibility for Air Services Australia.
I really think what should be done is that we go back to square one and have a consultative process, and if the public can be convinced that this is the only answer, that these flight paths have to be where they are, well, so be it, but at least you were part of that process.
As you can see, it's a very complex issue with no apparent solution. What we do know is Perth Hills residents have had their peaceful lifestyles compromised without a word of warning from the authorities. I'm Ruth Barber for Undercurrent.
acting or miming in front of a national TV audience might not be everybody's bag, but for a local Perth girl, singing opera in front of millions of people is her dreams come true. Mara Pamana investigates.
She has the voice of an angel and she has all of Perth right behind her tonight. This is 24-year-old Clara Helms.
Although Clara's classical singing is very polished, it has been a long road for her to perfect her talent.
I started doing ballet, classical ballet, and then I did jazz, tap, ballroom dancing, character, contemporary and Argentine tango, because, you know, one's not enough. And then I started doing speech and drama and piano and acting, and it wasn't until I was 14 that my best friend at the time said, "Clara, will you do a duet with me?" And we won the Eisteddfods, and I thought, well, that was fun. So the following year I started having singing lessons and just working on mainly musical theatre because I'd done the dance, and so it was a genre that appealed to me a lot more at that stage. And then a few years later I auditioned for an opera in Sydney for students that are under 27, and I got into that 2 summers in a row. And that's when I really fell in love with the classical music as well, because it's like ballet. You have to have a lot of technique and you have to work really hard to get those high notes like your grand jetés, you know, they have to be really good. So that's where it really started with, probably the ballet, really.
It wasn't until she got into WA Academy of Performing Arts that she discovered her full potential.
When I auditioned for WAP, I was really nervous. I mean, it's so exclusive. And they actually told me at my first audition, please change your preferences, we want you here now. So, because they weren't actually my first preference, and I changed it. I think it was a really good decision because they're a very practical university.
And the latest news, and the most exciting probably, is that you have participated in Australia's Got Talent. Now tell me more about that experience and what sort of doors has it opened for you?
I think being on Australia's Got Talent has been a very positive experience. It's been a great marketing experience for myself. Before I was just someone from Perth, and now the whole of Australia has heard of me or seen me. So in that sense, it's stepped it up a notch and getting me closer to where I ultimately want to be, a worldwide sensation, singer, performer, actor. You know, I want the world to be my oyster. So it's been one step that has assisted me in that journey. I've met some really lovely people, done things I've never done before, a lot of the mic work and the stage work in front of those audiences with the camera. It's been a really new learning experience, but I've loved it. It's been really lovely.
Plans for the future, aspirations, what are you looking forward to?
I've had a director and writer approach me. He wants me to be the lead in a feature film called The Food of Love, and it's a romantic comedy, which is so me. And it not only shows my singing abilities, but the fact I have done a lot of acting training, so it complements them both. And it's going to be filmed here in Perth to show our beautiful city of WA. So, but to show a sunny aspect, whereas a lot of films these days are the dark or the vampire sort of persona. This is going to show how gorgeous, how sunny, how friendly Perth is. I'm also working on my first debut album. I've never put together an album before, but I'm so excited. I really am. I've started my list of songs and the pieces that I think will complement and show not only the classical, but my musical theatre and some jazz and some originals. So to show the fact I am diverse and I'm not just the stereotype straight opera singer. I can do a lot more than that and be a lot more marketable.
The future looks very promising for WA talent Clara Helms. We wish her all the best. Mara Pamana for Undercurrent.
time for my very favourite topic on Undercurrent. It's our Vox-Pops that we do every single week on Tuesdays at lunchtime down in the Murray Street Mall. If you've got anything you'd like to get off your chest, do come down and see us. This week, though, we asked you the question, what do you think of the Coles and Woolworths monopoly? It's causing a problem for smaller retails. Is it causing a problem for you? We asked the question.
I'm down here at the Murray Street Mall asking people what they think about the domination of the grocery market by Coles and Woolworths. Okay, so first of all, can I just ask you where you actually do your grocery shopping?
At Coles.
Woolworths?
Yeah, at Coles, so.
Anywhere that's convenient, really. I'm not too choosy.
Woolworths or IGA?
We shop in Maddington at Farmer Jack's.
I actually go shopping at the Spud Shed down Mandurah.
I do my shopping at a couple of local IGAs and independent vegetable growers and independent butchers.
And are you aware that Coles and Woolworths actually own 80% of the grocery market in Western Australia?
No, I'm not.
No.
I realised it was high, but I probably didn't realise it was that high.
Yeah, and that's probably the same situation in like many places where, like, you know, the big supermarkets, they are getting rid of all the small business. So the small business, they are really struggling to survive, and people don't realise all that, so yeah.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do, because they do monopolise the market. You can hardly buy Australian brands anymore, and part of the reason for that is that Coles and Woolies are bringing in their own brand.
Do you sympathise with the smaller businesses?
Oh, without a doubt, yes, very much so. The quality of the smaller businesses is a lot better than what you pick up at Coles and Woolies.
Yep.
Well, it appears to be anyway, and you get a lot of local product, so and Australian produce. Whereas it's pretty hard to find in Coles and Woolies. Coles and Woolies used to stock a lot of organic food, and they stopped once they got the monopoly and killed off all the little shops.
Does this bother you? Do you think this is bad for consumers, especially with the cost of living going up so much?
Well, it is a problem, but I mean, while you've still got some independent grocers, then, you know, you've got the choice. You don't have to support them.
I don't honestly really have a problem with it. I think, you know, they do what they need to do, and competition is competition.
I do care that it's a monopoly, but at the same time, I don't care enough for it to sort of change my shopping habits.
Do you find that the prices are actually lower at Coles and Woolworths as compared to...
No, I have occasionally walked into Coles and Woolworths for detergents and things like that, but actually they're more expensive than everybody else.
We're told that the prices are higher, and because they're upping each other all the time, you know. I mean, there have been surveys done where you can see, you go into Woolworths and they're trying to undercut the prices of small greengrocers, for instance, and you'll go into Woolworths and the prices are lower. But then once they've got that market, they start to put their prices up again. So they're not really being fair to the consumer at all.
It seems most people are aware that Coles and Woolworths dominate the grocery market, yet they still choose to shop at these major stores for convenience and variety. I'm Sarah Miller, reporting for Undercurrent.
Monopolies just don't help anyone. Once you kick the smaller retailers out of the market, the prices inevitably go back up. We'll be right back with more Undercurrent. As seen in the recent La Rosa case in Perth, for the first time in WA, information taken from a car's GPS system was used as evidence and indeed led to a conviction. Christy Molliker investigates a new device that records footage and data in your vehicle, just like a plane's black box, but in your car.
Whenever we hear about a plane crash or an airline incident, we always hear that investigators are looking for that black box, which holds all the important information as to how and why the crash happened. And now you too can have a similar device in your car, which will record important information that could be used in a court of law.
Police and private investigators all over the world have been using similar devices for many years. But now these cameras are making waves with truckies, taxi drivers and private users just like you and I.
With the black box camera, you're able to record all of the vision you're able to see when you're driving. So if you are in an incident, you're able to bring that back up and actually show people or police or bring it up in court.
I initially was a bit skeptical about the whole issue of getting a camera in the car, but over the last 6 months that I've been using it, I think it's a fantastic device.
Once the black box is fitted into your vehicle, it starts recording as soon as you turn your key on, and also once you park the vehicle in a car park or at home, it's able to record if someone reverses into you or actually breaks into your vehicle, and hopefully you'll get their face.
It gives you peace of mind, basically. Initially, I didn't rely on it so much, but now I know when I get in this car, everything that's happening around me is being recorded.
You can see here that the vehicle's driving around, and we can see a clear picture there that they're near the convention centre. You can see on the Mitchell Freeway on the map here that they're quite close to there. There's a speed reference there as well. Up here you've got a G-force sensor, so that shows you any sudden bumps. So if they go over a speed bump quite quickly or they brake hard, it also gives you a graph of that as well.
In South Korea, 50% of taxi drivers have an auto black box in their car, while in both Korea and Taiwan, insurance companies give motorists a discount on their policy if they have one installed.
I see the idea catching on throughout the world at the moment. Actually, I was in America and they did a similar thing. At the moment they use cameras in the police cars to produce proof.
Any form of road rage, rash driving by other drivers is being recorded. And it's a wonderful tool to use with the insurance companies, with the police, and it's a great backup.
I haven't seen something as good as this. I've seen a lot of people that drive around with, I suppose, digital cameras that they've got, but this interacting with the car and I suppose keeping your speed was really good.
I feel I'm a safer driver because all that I do is being recorded. All that others do are being recorded just the same, so I need to be more careful and vigilant.
It's mainly to protect yourself. If there is an incident, you can prove your innocence. If someone pulls out in front of you, you can prove your speed. All customers are very happy with them. Truck drivers are extremely happy with them, and they've been really impressed with them.
I think if this was proven that you couldn't tamper with the settings, it would be something that could be used. I suppose in the first instance to stop litigation would be a really good idea. Yeah.
I think it's a wonderful idea, and I think it's a fantastic device. I'm so glad I got it.
The big question is, will the auto black box become the next motoring must-have, just as the GPS has? And if so, will it make you a safer driver, knowing your every move is being recorded, and in fact, others may be recording yours? This is Christy Molliker reporting for Undercurrent.
Now, most responsible people would want for their electricity to be provided through some sort of green mechanism. We all want to look after the environment. Unfortunately, not all methods of generating green power are completely without side effect. In fact, some green power, for example wind farms, can actually have negative effects on our health. We wanted to find out a little bit more, so we sent Lucy Nicol to investigate.
The wind turbines are getting larger and larger, with new models reaching around 190 metres towards the sky. They are supposed to provide us with a clean energy solution so that future generations will have a healthier environment, but new revelations reveal modern wind turbines may be posing a danger to people's health as we speak.
Look, I think we've got some great potential here in Western Australia, and we've currently got about 16 or 17 projects either operating or under construction or proposed throughout our state. And I think people get quite excited about the opportunities of having renewables in the energy market.
During the recent Senate inquiry into the social and economic impacts of rural wind farms, concerned community members brought evidence to light regarding the adverse health impacts they experience from living in close proximity to wind turbines, such as migraines, tinnitus, hypertension and heart attacks.
And then eventually heart palpitations, which were a massive concern.
There's a very serious problem. It's not proven, it's not established, but there's plenty of evidence suggesting that wind farms have a very, very serious effect on health. There's millions of papers on a careful study of the noise near wind farms. It's completely irrelevant, except it's a bit annoying, a bit upsetting. So what would I like to see? Pretty simple. I'd like to see the techniques that are used in measuring industrial vibrations applied to wind farms.
The wind industry has been developed based on the National Health and Medical Research Council statement, which states there is currently no published scientific evidence to positively link wind turbines with adverse health effects.
The context is a lack of evidence, so that statement isn't saying that there are no effects, it's saying we don't really know. And we'll await further evidence to find that out.
Here in Williams, they're currently testing wind speeds with plans for a wind farm with over 69 turbines, each measuring over 194 metres high. There are currently plans pending approval for wind farms in Kojonup, Dandaragan and Esperance. 150 kilometres south of Williams in Kojonup, neighbours are at war over the proposed Mooney's Hill Energy Wind Farm. One resident's property is set to be surrounded by 60 visible wind turbines.
From the research that we've done, the health concerns are our major problem with the wind farm. We will be living adjacent to our knowledge 4 turbines, and it concerns us, as you see, we've got a young family, that if it does cause health problems that we won't be able to live where we live.
We knew there was a proposed wind farm in the area, but not to this scale, and the information wasn't really available. They sort of kept it pretty quiet. I think the biggest thing is that a wind farm company being able to put up a wind farm next door, being 100 metres from our boundary, stopping all the neighbours in their farming operations for chemical application and fertilisers with aeroplanes, land values, health effects for our families and children, and even visual amenity, and even just probably one of the biggest things is also tearing the community apart. It's actually making it pretty hard in the Flatbox area at the moment. There's people not talking to each other and name calling and all that sort of stuff, and it hasn't done the area much good at all.
Frankly, what I'd like to see the state government do, because they have the capacity to do it, is to call for a moratorium on any more new wind farm developments unless they're sited further than 10 kilometres from residences, and at that distance that they would appear to be safe. So that's what I'd like to see, is that no more lives and people's well-being be endangered by this rush into wind energy, and they should just literally call a halt to it until more is known. The people in Kojonup, their view is undoubtedly changing as they become more aware of the impacts that these facilities are having on people's lives in the eastern states, where they're now living alongside these facilities.
With the possible introduction of the carbon tax set to make renewable energy even more attractive than the current rebates already do, perhaps we need to slow down and consider if wind farms really are the pretty blue-skied picture we see portrayed by the wind farm companies, or if they may in fact be a horror picture we may later regret. I'm Lucy Nichol, reporting for Undercurrent.
Do you like truffles? Well, if you want some fresh truffles, would you believe that 150 East Riverside is selling them all this week? Speaking of 150 East Riverside, Nick Hayes was down there again, carrying on his series of conversations with well-known personalities, this week with Zhenya Tsvetnenko, the SMS millionaire. Nick and Zhenya talked about charity, they talked about partying, and they talked about entrepreneurial leadership.
Zhenya, thanks for joining us.
No worries.
How much money do you have in your wallet right now?
I've got a couple of 50s. Yes. I don't carry too much cash around. I prefer use credit cards actually.
You've made the BRW Rich Young list. You're also a 40 under 40 winner. How do these accolades sit with you?
Well, I suppose in a personal satisfaction sense, it's rewarding to be recognised for my achievements, and I think I've also been able to inspire a lot of people. I've had a lot of feedback, and people sort of hit me up on Facebook and telling me that they're really inspired by my story and what I've done. So that's quite rewarding to see that I've been able to have that effect. I suppose in a business sense, it also has opened a lot of doors. There's been a lot of, in fact, after the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year award and the 40 under 40, there's been a lot of emails coming through with people's ideas, asking me to kind of give them my 2 cents worth and possibly invest in some of the ideas, and a lot of these ideas are quite good. I don't take up all of them, but I have followed up on a few of them, and and there's been a couple of really good things that have come out of it. So
where did it all start?
I came to Australia when I was 12, and my family decided to move over here. We came with nothing more than a couple of suitcases, and we sold our apartment in Russia for $6,000, I remember that. Yeah, we pretty much moved here. My parents had to start sort of their life from scratch. And yeah, I lived here ever since. I consider this home now.
At what point did you realise that what you were doing was going to be a success?
It was very early on. It did require a bit of testing, a bit of mucking around, but I think one of the tricks, or one of the keys to my success was small testing that I did, so small scale testing. And that's what I say to people: if you've got an idea, try it on a small scale. If it works, then you can always scale it up, and that's what I did.
You and your beautiful wife Lydia are very much a big part of the social scene and the charitable scene here in Western Australia. Is this something that is important to you, or is it just part and parcel with what you have to do?
I would say both. I think people that are doing well for themselves do have an obligation to the community, on one hand. On the other hand, it actually gives me personal satisfaction, and to my wife as well.
Charities in particular are very important to you. The Muscular Dystrophy Association has been a group that you've supported quite heavily. Why is that?
I've got a friend that's actually affected by the condition, and I remember telling him when we were in high school, when we were a lot younger, that if I ever could do something for him, I would. And the time has come. Obviously, I can do something, you know, and via donations to charity, via support of Muscular Dystrophy Association, who are doing an incredible job. By the way, I've visited the research centre, and I'm involved in it from that point of view. So I know where the money is going. I know it's actually been spent on the right things.
For young entrepreneurs that are out there, what advice would you give them to follow their dream?
I think don't give up. If you've got an idea and it doesn't work, don't fold your hands and don't even if you have to throw that idea away and think of something new, do it.
Where do you gain your inspiration?
Just people that I meet in everyday life, and I like to take away a little bit from everyone. You know, I find it interesting to talk to people and to learn from people from all walks of life.
Zhenya, what is it that you love about Perth?
It's just a really nice place. It's a nice place, and I've been around a lot. We've travelled to LA a lot of times. I've got a lot of business there, and I love LA. But there'll be nothing better than home.
We're in the heart of the city, and it's cold, quiet, dark. Why? Well, Borders, one of my very favourite bookstores, has closed forever. And we're hearing it's because they're just not competitive with the pricing you can get on the internet. How many other Perth retailers is this going to affect? Well, we've come to the end of another show. I'm really quite sad about it because I quite enjoy presenting Undercurrent, but we'll be back again next week with a lot more stories. Now, if you've got anything at all that you think that we should cover, do get in contact with us here at Undercurrent. Follow us on Twitter, check us out on Facebook, or come to our forums on the WTV Perth website. Don't forget deal44.tv, where we're giving you all of the best bargains around Perth. It's a big thank you from the Undercurrent crew for watching. We'll catch you again next week. I'm Jason Jordan. Good night.